All right, everybody. I suspect this isn't going to be some, viral video here, but I think it's something that I find interesting, or Sumeet is a human I find interesting. So I asked him if he would come on and kind of tell the story of Luxury Microfiber, and you guys have seen me buy the Marolex sprayers, which he's completely responsible for. And he talked me in. He's been after me for years to get these stupid sprayers that I don't fricking want. And then he sent me them and said, just try them. And then I got my hands on it. I said, well, I still don't love a sprayer, but it is something I think needs to be in my cabinet. So we're gonna sort of tell the story of how we met. We've been talking for many years now, or 3 or 4 years. Sumeet lives in Minnesota, so he deals with different conditions in caring for his car. But I think the key message here is that we're both, hyper enthusiasts, and then we both have business backgrounds, and so both in finance, and so we have a lot of common interests and a lot of common experiences in life, where we're two people who don't belong doing what we're doing, or so it may seem, but in a real sense, we're right where we should be. Playing with cars and chasing passion instead of doing a real job, if you want to call it that. So, Sumeet, where do you live? Where are you from? Give us just a quick little 5-minute little background on your business career and stuff like that, and then we'll get into the stuff that people care about, which is detailing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was born and I grew up in India. Again, not I had most of my education in India, and then I left India, went to Australia to do my post graduation. Came back to India during the IT boom in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and then I found myself here in the US in 2002, 2003. And my sole purpose of coming to the US, other than the fact that it's the best country in the world, is the fact that I could live my passion of cars and actually have a physical garage and have things in them that I wanted to care for. And my passion, one thing led to another. I've had a key interest in business. I used to be a consultant for a company. So I got to travel the world doing business for and being a business consultant for other big corporations. So I understood how a business worked. Very early on in my life, my dad ran a company for which he was the CEO. So he would take me into board meetings when I was 12, 13 years old. I wanted to get the hell out of there, but he gave me the business acumen. Some of it was also genetics, I guess, just being in the environment and being pushed of how a business really works. I didn't really have my own business until very recently. And again, for me, it wasn't something that I set up as a business. I just chased my passion for automotive detailing. And here I am. We curated a few things. I traveled the world. In one of my visits, I got to meet, through a buddy of mine, some people in Hong Kong who were kind of the buying agents for these big companies here in the US. So basically, I backed up into some of these factories, mega factories and boutique factories that make these products. And I found myself having conversations with them. One thing led to another. And I found these amazing set of products that I thought I have to bring here to the US and share with everybody else. So, that was a very innocent kind of way into getting into business. Now, obviously, things have changed. A couple of years down the road, we have, like you mentioned, exclusive for Marolex products. Again, my expertise is to go in, build relationships with people across the world, try and find things, products that work for me, and then try and share it with everybody else.
So I'll sort of open up our detailing conversation and tell people sort of how this went down with you and me. I remember you sent me an email. I probably
2017.
Yeah, early. Like I had just started selling stuff, so it was probably March or April 2017. And I get this guy sending me. By the way, hundreds of people send me the same thing, and most people, I just can't just can't do it all. Even in the beginning, got lots and lots of people. And so, you'd sent me an email, and I think we got on the phone, and you're like, look, I'm in Minnesota. I don't think you understand like what it's like to live here. And I said, no, screw you, Sumeet. I lived in Pennsylvania, but I really, I washed my car, and I had an absorber and used Dawn to clean my car when I was in Pennsylvania, and I found like this, found like some detail spray and stuff like that. But I was scratching cars still then. I wasn't, detailing like I am now. And in fairness to younger Maddie, there wasn't a lot of detailing knowledge out there, and there weren't forums and things like that going yet in detailing. If they were very obscure. So I said, guy, I know how to take care of a car, even in the snow. And you said, look, I just don't think you understand how freaking cold it gets, where you can't just man up when it's minus 12, and go and just start washing your car. So I've spent a lot of time. You were telling me, in our conversation, I've spent a lot of time perfecting a waterless process. Mm-hmm. I guess it would be a rinseless process, right? So we're using a bucket with water. We would call that, rinseless, because we're not getting a hose out or a pressure washer out. And I was big, and I'm still pretty big on towels that aren't super plush. Right. Mm-hmm. And so you had sent me what you were looking for. Is you were looking for somebody to help represent these towels that you found from these relationships you found in manufacturing overseas, and you found, and you sort of had towels manufactured to your spec and what you were looking for, which was plush, which I hated or still hate.
Yes.
And high quality, right? So they were, 70-30 type towels, but they were built to what you were looking for your environment and what you're using. And so you sent me some, and I punted them immediately in the trash. Right? So you sent it to me, and I'm like, yep. I don't freaking like these. They're not bad. I'm just like, I don't like them. I don't want them. And it was a really opportune time when you contact me, because I was just finished my car washing package, and microfiber was coming at some point. And so I was open. So you caught me at the right time. And then I hadn't heard from you for quite some time. The coolest thing, the best part about you is that I could tell you these freaking, I don't like them. And I threw them right in the trash. And you're not offended. You're not turning red. You're not ready to kill me. You're like, I get it. And you sort of gave me the opportunity to be me when we first met. And I hadn't heard from you for a while. And then I saw some other guy on YouTube. So I'm hoping you can kind of tell some of the story. I'm like, I've seen those towels before. Like some other guy talking about the manufacturing of the towels and how he chosen them and all that stuff. I don't know how in depth you want to get into your relationships. I think you should be as transparent as possible, but that's up to you. I'll let you go there. So tell the story of Luxury Microfiber and how that has gone and where it is today.
Yeah. And by the way, I made all the mistakes of scratching up my car, right? I mean, for me, growing up, owning a nice car was a dream, right? I mean, very few people owned very nice cars, right? I mean, in the US, they're more accessible. So when I got my nice car here in Minnesota, I did what I could to take care of them. And I realized that I've completely scratched the shit out of this thing, right? No matter what I did. And when I say scratched it, like really scratched it. So again, that's where the kind of motivation to come up with, I'm talking about when ONR was not even, a thing, So I came up with the towels. I use them. And again, I live in an environment where for 6 to 7 months out of the year, I cannot pull my pressure washer out no matter what I do, right? I can't. If I take my car to a car wash, which I never do, but even if I did, I got to wait 45 minutes, 1 hour till my turn comes to get in there. And then we're dealing with a situation that as I'm driving my wet car out of the tunnel, the droplets of water freeze on the car as I'm driving out. So think about that for a second. Okay. Yeah. So basically I curated a few towels, just 4-5 towels, right? And I said, this is what I need, the plushness, the thickness, the absorbency, and the quality to do a decent job. Not perfect, but a decent job given the conditions that I'm in. But I had no marketing, right? I mean, I used Google ad search and things like that. So we used to get a couple of orders here and there, but I needed marketing. I had zero marketing, right? You had a voice, you had a channel, and I had watched almost every video of yours. This is the third home that you're in from all the homes that you have moved that I've been watching your story. So it's kind of like with YouTubers, it's funny. It's like you know them, but they don't know you, right? So I had to kind of explain myself a little bit there. But then after I didn't hear from you, or I heard from you, and you were not very interested, rightfully so. I went to Scott, which was another emerging YouTube channel, Dallas Paint Correction, right? And he kind of took a liking to what he was seeing because he had obviously seen a lot of stuff, and he said, "I've never seen something like this." So we met. I told him the story, and we decided that he's gonna do the marketing for all of these. But I had to make a very interesting decision at this point, right? Everyone knows Scott from Dallas Paint Correction. Nobody knows Sumeet. Right.
Yep.
So I almost took a backseat to all of this and let Scott run with this. Right. And it was my decision. It was our combined decision. And he said,
well, he knows how to speak. He knows how to speak to his audience. He knows how to, and it was genius. I mean, he was the first guy to chase can you do this for less? And he knows what his, the people that have, he knows how to speak to them. So why would you, as the business guy, come in and tell him what to say? It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. And we kind of didn't, I didn't come out with him and say, hey, I am the business side of it, and he's the kind of the spokesman. I just kept quiet on the back end. And we decided that he's going to make these videos. He's going to showcase these products. He's going to use them with the hope that people are going to start using these products, and then they will decide whether they like it or they don't like it, right? So that was an immediate success. Overnight, the dial kind of switched, right, because of that audience and the kind of following he had.
The thing I found fascinating, I'm interested in what you think. How did you guys overcome this? But Scott's brand was very much so, it's got to be inexpensive. It's got to be, we're going to find the alternatives to the big names. And then you guys have $22 16 by 16 towels.
Yeah.
How the heck did that, I know you guys sold lots of stuff, you and I sort of talked about this, but how did that happen? I would have thought people would have turned on him. Because he went from you got to do cheap to now he has the most expensive towels on the market, other than maybe Microfiber Madness. How did that happen? How did that work?
Yeah, so that was not a very organic business fit, right? And I kind of knew that, and Scott also knew that. But I think over time, what he was trying to do is say, listen, this is what you're getting. And yes, it may be expensive right out of the gate, but you don't have to throw it away after 10 washes, right? So he was trying to go down that route. And to be fair to Scott always approached me and said, we got to lower the price a little bit, make it more affordable for people. And we didn't have layers and channels. We didn't have a guy sitting in Hong Kong, someone else doing all the manufacturing, 3-4 layers, wholesaler, distributor, that kind of stuff. So we could kind of lower the prices and, get us to a point where we were not the most expensive. But at the same time, if you compared the towels that we had to anybody's, out there, it was kind of up there in terms of quality. So, but that was, to your point, that's correct. I think there was a different set of audience that Scott appeals to, and they're very, very loyal to him. So this kind of didn't make sense from that regard, but that was something that we had to kind of deal with along the way. Our brand says luxury microfiber, right? So we can't really come down to a price point. It wouldn't make sense economically to have it at a price point that would appeal to them, right?
Well, plus you guys you were starting out, and so your buying power is limited. You're not buying like La Rag Company or even Auto Fiber. You're not buying the quantities that they're bringing. 4, 5, 6 containers over at a time, where you're probably air freighting half the stuff in. I would guess so.
Exactly, and the stuff that we were buying, Matt, I mean, my contacts from overseas would tell me, no one else is buying this stuff. And that's how I knew, right? Because they were expensive because they were short production runs, but they were also expensive because we were air freighting them. But they were, even if you take those two components out, our prices were significantly more expensive than anyone else's, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we had to kind of figure that out. But one thing I realized very quickly is we had very, very sticky customers. Even today, out of all the orders we get in a given day, 70 to 75% are repeat customers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have very sticky customers, but we may not have the best kind of marketing outreach out there because there are, like you said, other big players out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But people who use our stuff kind of tend to come back to us, and people send me emails that I've been using one of your towels for 3 years now, and it still works fine, right?
So who is we now? Because I don't see Scott talking Luxury Microfiber. I don't know if Scott stopped making YouTube videos or what, but I've never. I think I talked to him one time on the phone. We were going to do a podcast together, and then I saw the towels. I'm like, this is just kind of weird. And I didn't know the backstory. So I'm like, I've seen those towels before. So I thought I didn't know your story and where it come from. I'm like, I don't know, these guys pretending like he made these towels. And it just seemed a little weird. It seemed really odd to me. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to talk to this guy about. And so we just never really, I know that their group doesn't like me very much from what I understand. People send me screenshots. I'm like, I hate it when people send me screenshots of people hating on me. I don't want that. I don't want to know. Just don't even tell me. It'd be like Joe Rogan, where I just don't even listen. What happened? I know the answer to this, but what happened to like you guys are no longer partners? I know you want to do some other stuff. What's the story there? Because people still think that Scott founded Luxury Microfiber and then stole it from you and took all the, or you stole it from him or whatever. And I think that you can sort of tell the story. You guys just kind of parted ways. How did that, where is the status now?
Yeah. So as of now, we are separate, right? So there's no part of what I do that interacts with anything that he does, right? So that's current. But I think what happened is over time, we kind of, he was always the marketing part of Luxury Microfiber. So he was compensated for that. There was a percentage of sales that went to him. And everything from financing the company, buying inventory, supply chain, logistics, distribution, orders, shipping, packaging, warehousing was mine, right? So I was taking on everything from a cost standpoint, and we're trying to build up a new business. But I was very comfortable giving Scott a percentage of the sales, even though
rightfully so. He's generating the interest and doing the marketing aspect of it.
Yeah. Then we started getting into chemicals, right? And the chemicals business is a little interesting because, as you know, it's cutthroat competition out there, right? And Scott was very interested in, and rightfully so, his background. He knew chemicals really well. He knew polishes really well. He knew sealants very well. Initially, he was not a coating guy. I was always a coating guy. I knew when coatings came out, like, this is what's going to stick, right? So we tried a few different things. And, one of the chemicals that we kind of offered initially didn't work out very well in terms of the fact that when we sold it, it started crystallizing in the bottles. And, it was the earlier coating that we kind of did that. So we had a huge inventory of those, and we had sold a lot of those because the price point was good, right? Everything was great. But that one incident of having one product that wasn't perfect. And again, it's no fault of Scott's or mine. It was just the way it was kind of configured.
This is part of what, G-Technic and Car Pro and all these guys, they've experienced it, and you're attempting to do it day one, and they're on day 100,000, and this is how you find this stuff out. You find problems that way by shipping it out into the world and let people try to screw it up.
So we had kind of a breaking point when that happened, right? So it put such a financial strain on everything that we had. It kind of made it difficult. But we decided as a company, we're going to refund everybody who bought that product. Everybody, just everybody, right? And it got to a point where I had to do my own thing. I had to bring my business hat on and bring in a coating, which was actually good, right? And my benchmark, because again, I live in Minnesota, is CarPro Sequats 3.0 UK, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think works for me here. So I was trying to look for something like that. So again, I did my whole channel surfing, going across the globe, what I do best, and tried to come up with something. And again, we did come up with that. And then over time, we've refined that product. But that was the point where I think Scott wanted to go a different direction, right? In terms of, his own chemical stuff. Because at the end of the day, he owns Dallas Paint Correction. I own Luxury Microfiber, but they were cut together, right? And also to take our business to that next level, as you can tell, when you've done business for a year and a half, 2 years, you suddenly, if you're doing well, you need huge amounts of capital, huge. So we just decided that I'm going to do this on my own. And obviously, I realized that my sales are going to go down because Scott's not going to be part of it. And he's going to take the customers that he had, rightfully so, with him. But the good news is we had built something along the way that we had those sticky customers that kept coming back for the towels, right? And then we still had some chemicals that were very good and they still work very well. So we retained some of those chemicals in the relationships, but we built new relationships with people who made us chemicals. So we have now basically we're on version 2, version 3 of our sealants and our coatings. So Scott's got his own thing. So Dallas Paint Correction has its own set of coatings and sealants. And I think he had towels at one time too. But we just do this by ourselves now.
Who's we? I thought it was just you.
It's just me. I do have. So again, it was me, my wife, and my 14-year-old son. So think about it. When a container came, my wife, my son, and I, we would empty this container ourselves. And even today we do it, right? So we needed some help. I couldn't do this all by myself. So I do have a very good friend who approached me and he said, listen, I want to help you with this. So I have one person and he's got extended family here in the Twin Cities, Minnesota area. So his family does all the fulfilling, like you have your family and extended family. I don't have that. So I had to latch on to somebody who was willing to latch on to me, right? So I have one person, he owns part of the entire entity, which is Luxury Microfiber. I'm still, majority and as far as detailing goes and all of that, but he's very good with running the books, the finance side of it. Again, we both have a finance background. We worked together professionally in a previous life. And his family does all the orders, fulfilling, warehousing. So it's two of us, myself and this person.
So tell me the Marolex story.
Yeah.
So when did that happen? And what's that story? So the people, I don't know, I'm interested. So I'm assuming other people are interested in that story as well.
Yeah. So Marolex was not a very known brand in the US. They did make good pumps and sprayers, and I knew about them. But like any other company that's across the pond, it's a little difficult to kind of work with them initially. So they reached out to various people. I don't know if they reached out to people, YouTubers, or some YouTubers reached out to them and some business owners. But eventually, Scott was kind of involved in all of this. And Scott had this audience. He was growing. People had watched his videos overseas. But they didn't make it very easy. Marolex didn't make it very easy for someone to become a distributor for them in the US, right? The terms and conditions were outrageous. Like, it just crazy. You would look at it and say, no, thank you. So again, I put on my business hat after I told Scott, if it's okay with him, let me try and work a deal, right? So that we can be the exclusive distributors here in North America. So I worked with them. It took months. We went back and forth multiple times. We had to talk about minimum commitments. We had to talk about what we were going to get, all of that fun stuff. So it took quite some time to kind of fine tune that. And Scott was part of this luxury microfiber Dallas Spain correction were together when we started Marolex. But to do business with Marolex, it required us to take our company from here to here in terms of who we are, what kind of liquidity we had, what kind of capital structures we had, and things like that nature. And again, I could have done it myself, but it was difficult. So I kind of approached the bank for a loan, right? And because it was a huge number, I didn't want to, I didn't have the assets to pony up all of that myself. And at that time, the bank, like any other bank would, they wanted all the details, the paperwork. They said, "Who's Scott? Do you have a contract with him?" And our contract was for a year and it had kind of lapsed. So I wanted to rehash our contract, and I also wanted to rehash some of the kind of percentage we had talked about. But because in certain cases, in certain products and categories, there wasn't that much margin, right? So towels was a different business, but the Marolex business, there wasn't that much margin. So we couldn't get to a point we kind of all agreed to do this together. So we kind of parted ways. And I was left with this 800-pound gorilla, which is Marolex. And I didn't know what to do with this. And either I borrow the money, go and get my first kind of official shipment, but then I didn't have any marketing. So how am I going to sell this through? So I just ingested the first container, kept it with me. A few months later, they called me and they said, "Are you ready for your second one?" And I had barely sold 10% of my first container, but I had to buy the second one. Few months later, they said, "Are you ready for the third?" So you know how this is going, right? I'm just accumulating stuff with the hope that one day I'm going to find marketing and distribution, right? I used to make over 100 calls a week. I have called certain people over 500 times. Just help me out here. Just take this from me. I'll give it to you at what I bought it for, right? That kind of a thing. But Marolex was very patient. They worked with me. And I've slowly given them over the years the ability to trust me with their brand, right? To find right distribution channels for them. And now we're getting to a point that I'm able to actually sell through what I'm getting from there. At any given point in time, I have about a container and a half with me, which is fine. I can live with that, but I'm rotating through. And then the pandemic hit last year and we didn't have, Marolex couldn't give me what I wanted, right? So we went from this problem to the other problem. So here we are. Marolex is an 800-pound gorilla. It's a great product. It's a great company. It's just people need to know what it is so that they can hold it in their hands and feel it, right? And once that happens, I think people kind of change and they convert. But yeah, we have their exclusive distribution. They care about their brand a lot. So I have to do periodic touch points with them. I have to report back to them. Who am I selling with? Who are my business partners? How am I maintaining the prices? How am I keeping the brand where it's supposed to be? So a lot of that is on my shoulders to make sure, like if someone calls me and says, I ran over my Marolex and it broke, right? I drove over it, it broke. I just send them another one, right? Even though that's not our fault. So basically it's, again, I come down to this relationship thing. I'm not looking for small, short-term 2-3 year kind of thing. I'm here to help develop the brand within the US. And it's a journey, and it's ours right now to deal with. And Marolex has trusted us with their brand.
So to cue people in on my Marolex thing, I've already told Sumeet, punted his towels in the trash. We just kept, we'd talk once a year or something like that. And then I think he called me again. I don't know. How did we restart the conversation on Marolex where I'm saying, I don't freaking want a spray bottle. I already went down the IK path. And you probably remember better than I do, but I was like, I'm just not really interested. But I'm intrigued because I can see the benefit, and I can see how there's a large percentage of people that do want a pump sprayer. And so help me with some of the reasons why, because when you sent it to me, I said, I want one of every one. I'll pay for it. You send them to me. But I'm like, look, I'm not looking for anything for free. Send it to me. Send me a bill. I'll pay for the darn thing. You never sent me the bill, but I'll pay for each one. But I want one of everything. This is
Yeah.
my neurosis. I need one of all of them to try. You sent me all the things. I freaking hated the sprayer, so I threw the regular hand sprayer, so I threw that thing away. But then I like the sprayer. Foamers, I don't know if foaming's really a good thing to even do anyway, but I like the regular, the regular chemical resistant sprayers. And the key with me is that I can fill it like pretty much all the way up and pump it a few times, and it freaking lasts for 20, 30 seconds, something like that. If it's a quarter full, I can pump it 100 times. The thing will last a half an hour, it seems. So why is it that the other sprayers, the Press-All, which I'm the exclusive representative for Press-All, and I freaking hate those, the IK, and then there's a couple of other brands, smaller brands that make them as well, but they're all terrible. Why is this one? What's the deal with this? So give us the scoop on this, because you've been representing and using it. Key is you've been using yourself for several years now. What are we missing? What am I missing here? What will people want to know about it?
So a couple of things, right? Again, you got to put in my case, my OCD hat on, right? I'm doing a rinseless wash in my garage. I have a heater in my garage, and the heat is cranked up to probably 75. It's -10 outside. And I'm using a sprayer, right? And I'm spraying my car. And I don't have one car, I have a few, and they all have to be cleaned together, right? So I'm like, this is not working out. And knowing me, a little bit like you are, I went and bought every sprayer out there, every sprayer in Home Depot, Lowe's, Northern Tool, whatever have you, everything online. Not only did I stop there, I went and bought every sprayer and pump sprayer available that I could get my hands on in the world. Okay. And I still have them with me. And again, I'm not very charismatic as you are in terms of my YouTube videos. So I quietly do my thing in my garage, and people think I'm crazy, cuckoo, and I just stay there. But I'm looking at myself doing these things, and I'm pumping up this Marolex sprayer, and the Ergo, the pump sprayer, if I pump it up 30, 35 times, I can discharge 60% of the liquid in one go, 60% of the liquid. I can get around my full car, and it's got just enough pressure that if your car is nicely maintained, if it has a coating or a sealant or both, when you've got this gunk of salt and magnesium chloride and all that fun stuff on the car, you see this, your whatever rinseless wash you're using on a pump sprayer hitting the car, everything's kind of falling to the ground, right? And I'm going, this is great. And then my hand's not hurting at the end of it, because I can get around my car in about 7 minutes, and I can spray, wipe, mop up, and I haven't scratched my car. By the way, I have all the IK sprayers too. And IK has done a phenomenal job, I think, in the marketing. But then I saw you and your video on the IK stuff, and I said, you know what, I've got to. Yep. And I said, you know what, I've got to reach out to Matt again. And there's a strong chance he's going to toss it again in the trash, and that's fine. But I have to try, right? And in my entire detailing kind of world and my head, the way it works, I've always said, I'm going to try and reach out to Matt. But I'm respectful, because Matt's grown over time and Obsessed Garage has become this huge thing. I am very insignificant. But it doesn't prevent me from reaching out to you every now and then, not bugging you, but at the same time, respectfully saying, hey, Matt, I have something else. Can I show it to you? So that was the second attempt of me trying to reach out to you with something that I thought that might grab your attention. But the thing I was trying to get to you is, 60% of America, when it's cold in the winter, they can't or they won't pull out their pressure washer, right? It doesn't mean our OCD of having a clean car goes away in the winter. We still have that, but then how do we get there, right? And then I started handing out these pump sprayers and foamers to others. So we got a dog, we have 2 dogs. I foam them up with my foamer, right? I put the dog soap in there and I foam it up. If anyone's tried to give a bath to their dog at home, they know you go through a full shampoo bottle in one bath, because you're doing this and then your dog's running away. but foam it up and there you go, right? Then I saw the PPF guys. They have these little thing and they keep going all over the place. And I'm like, do you want to just use this? I'll give it to you for free. Just tell me what's your feedback. And they're like, where can I buy more of these? I said, you can buy them from me. So it's been a very slow kind of organic, hey, try this thing, come back to me. And everybody that I've gone to, Matt, wants more. Everybody. It doesn't matter what they are, which industry they're in. People who do yard care and lawn, and they have to, spray these pesticides that marks the perimeter of their house so that the bugs and the beetles don't get in, Asian beetles don't get in. This is the sprayer for that, right? You got weeds. You want to, put your chemicals in this, go spray your weeds, right? So again, the use case of this is phenomenal. I've even reached out to janitors who take care of big buildings, who've got those big Rubbermaid trays that they pull, and they're constantly doing this. My wife happens to know a thing or two about ergonomics, and she said, that's your market. The people who are working 8 hours a day cleaning offices and bathrooms and things like that, who are just spraying like this constantly, and then they have issues, right? So I reached out to that market, the hoteling industry. So slowly, like I said, one call after another, organically, just the old-fashioned way, right? I didn't want to add layers and layers. I can have a sales guy. The sales guy is going to charge me a lot of money. I have to increase the prices and so on and so forth. Eventually, I may have to do that. But for now, it's just been trying to find people who are using bottles and saying, hey, why don't you use this instead of that? Tell me what you think. I'll give it to you for free. Just give me your feedback. Not once have I heard from anybody that this is garbage. Not once.
One of the things I struggle with the IK bottles was there was this, you have to have perfect dilution. This is specifically the foamer, primarily the foamer. I've got to have perfect dilution. And I have all these little finicky things that, like, God bless him, Anthony from the rag company just worked his face off trying to, what is the exact dilution? And he's the right guy because he's got some insane tendencies like you and I do. And so he would like, make little tweaks to the formulation on what's the dilution ratio, and then what kind of filter do you put in, and how often you have to clean the thing up. And there's like all this crap you got to do that I don't think I have to do with the Marolex. The Marolex is what you would expect one of these to be. Just put the stuff in and use it. Clean it once a year or something like that. I mean, is that, am I reading that right?
Oh, absolutely. So you have to go back to the history, right? So in Poland and in Europe in general, social media is pretty good now. Still not as good as US, but Marolex has been doing this for years. Think about it. If they made these products and they reached out to people and there was not an informative video of how to do it, they wouldn't use it correctly and they would just not be able to use it. So what Marolex did, and they did a very good job with, is they designed this in such a way that it just works, right? It works for you. And if it doesn't work, you would know why it's not working. For example, if you just put a full gallon of soap into the foamer and you did this, it would just bubble at the front. So you've got too much soap, right? If you're just getting a thin thread of water, you need more soap, right? And it doesn't say, oh, you got to put this much soap and this much water, or you got to use this soap with this water. No, go for it. It's very forgiving. The pump sprayers.
I think the disper or the delta there is much bigger than it is on any other sprayer. Like you don't need perfection. Like all the stars don't have to align. That's why I threw the freaking IK in the woods. It's like I've got to have all this, and I'm pretty particular dude, and I can't get this thing to work. I pump it 3 times and then it runs out, or pump it 30 times, it runs out of juice in 3 seconds. And so it was all these little quirks and things that. The reason why when I finally listened to you and you sent me the things, I'm like, whatever. And then he sat on my shelf for a month. And I'm like, I don't want anything to do with this crap. And I finally tested it and I'm like, okay, all right. The forgiveness factor, the delta between not working and working is wide enough that any idiot can just throw some crap in there and have it work. Unless it's some really weird chemical a really weird soap or something like that, it should function actually quite well. And that's what I found that was really interesting. I mean, the build quality is unquestionable.
Yeah.
They're pretty insane. I mean, you could fire that thing off a roof and it'd be fine. Plus, it looks nice, and so the function is key, but then the form is nice as well. And so that's why I said, I get why people need this, and I'm still struggling a little bit with, my whole brand is built around what I use every day.
Yeah.
But I've also made some concessions in realizing that now I have, it's not just like 10 people in Florida that are watching what I'm doing. It's people all over the world. And there is a use case. There is an application for this. The thing I'm struggling with a little bit is that I haven't done as good of a job of showing exactly what and how you would use this. But I think that as my bandwidth increases, as my leverage increases with having people here helping me build out products and things like that and create videos, that we'll and I'll get on a plane and go up to Minnesota in the winter and see what it's really like, and I'll go to different climates, and go to Phoenix and see what it's really like to wash a car. So I have aspirations to do a lot of these things, like travel around and really refine the product offering. But I think that these things need even a place in my cabinet where I'm not using them all the time. They're good enough and I like them enough for that real estate that's really expensive for me. Cabinet real estate is expensive, but I think that they deserve a spot. And so that's why I chose to say, okay, let's do it. And then you said, you'll sell it. I said, I don't want too much though. And you told me, you said, well, I'm telling you, Matt, you're going to sell all of these. And I said, I don't know, because my video is not going to be super exciting. I'm not going to be like, everybody needs this. Sure enough, we sold all the ones we took, and we've replenished several times since then. But I do think that over time, if I'm patient, you're patient, I think that I can provide more value over time because, like I'm saying, I think as I widen the process and really widen my personal knowledge base, because I'm not an expert in cleaning a salt, jacked up winter car with cinders and dirt all over it, and what to do with all of that. I have an idea, but I haven't spent a lot of time doing that. I think if I do spend some time doing that, it can, there can be some additional value that my brand, Obsessed Garage, can offer in the future. I struggle really because I want to do that right now, right today, but there's only so much time in the day. And so I have to take my time and eventually do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And, it's funny because I think you and I, we take a couple of things for granted. We all have pressure washers. We have access to water, running water. We have a garage. We can park it in the shade. But a lot of people don't, right? And therein comes they're still obsessed. They still want to clean their cars. They still want to make sure that their car or their ride looks nice. And I get a lot of people who have a couple of these lying around, and if their cars, they live in an apartment or a high rise somewhere, they go out, they clean their car, they got a couple of rags, couple of these things. 20 years ago, if I had access to something like this, I would be thrilled. I actually would fill up my bucket and walk it to my car when it was parked outside in the parking lot, and I would do this thing, right? Mm-hmm. So even with the Marolex pump sprayer, right? Think about it, about 58 psi of pressure. It's decent pressure to if you're just trying to get some dirt off, right? And these days the chemicals have gotten so good. You combine a little bit of that, and you're good to go. Anyone can do this, right? And that's where is the difference. The other thing is, this is one of those products that your significant other or you, if you know anyone else living with you, they'll pick it up, they'll take it inside the house, and then it's never coming out to the garage because it works so well inside the house as well, right? So that's the other thing where I've noticed where people are just simple things where you go to get your hair cut. They've got spray bottles, right? They're also constantly doing this with their hands, right? Yeah. So I left a few of these in my local, place where I go for haircut, and they use it. So, for me, it's just an extension of the brand and the use case. People say, what is that? I want one of those.
So let's talk about pressure washing. Let's talk about a little history here. I'd like to hear from you. because you guys were chasing me a little bit there for a little while back in the Comet days, right? And this is, you got to give me some credit. Pressure washing is my thing, and I'm setting the standard. And so I get in trouble for saying this all the time, but it's the truth. So I'd like to know what you guys were saying, like when I'm a little bit ahead, just a little bit ahead of you all the time, because I'm a lot of bit ahead because I freaking invented. I didn't invent the pressure wash, but I did a lot for this whole quick disconnects and all that crap. So I'd like to hear from you. What was that like? Well, how did that go? We've never talked about this before, but it just occurred to me and said, I forgot about that. Didn't I come out with a comment like 2 days before you guys did, or something like that, or AR or something like that? What, how did that go? What were the backroom conversations like then when I'm just 2 days ahead?
Yeah. So the interesting thing about it, I think the clientele that we had and the clientele that you have, or your audience, they're different. I mean, there's similarities, but they're different too, right? So the Comet machine was very interesting. Again, Scott's from Dallas Paint Correction, he's very popular, right, on YouTube. So people would reach out to him and say, hey, do you want to promote this? Do you want to promote that? So Comet was one of those machines that I think someone sent to him or he bought, and he tested it, and he called me and he said, Sumeet, we got to get like the whole thing about this. We got to get the US distribution. And again, think about it. We don't have much cash. We're a very, very small company, right? But what I found out that all of the Comets, they're going to this one central place, and then it's getting distributed from there. And that central place is a place called Paynesville, Minnesota, which is like 2 hours away from where I live. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I still remember it was a snowstorm in the middle of winter. I get into my car and I drive 2 hours to this place. It's called Paynesville, Minnesota. You can look it up. And I see a warehouse in the middle of nowhere filled with these pressure washers, but they wouldn't give us. They would give us like 6, right? And we were thinking, oh, we got this in the bag, right? We're going to come up with this best pressure washer. No one else will have it. And little did we know, a couple of days later, you have it, right?
Because I was doing the same thing. I was doing the same thing in the background. I had a follower who'd found one, and I saw that it was interesting, but it was Italian, so I wasn't super excited about it. And then I got one. I said, well, it's still a little bit expensive for what I was looking. I was looking for something like $400, but it tests really well. And so I was doing the same thing in the background, looking for a mid-tier, mid-grade pressure washer. And so I was in the back room negotiating the same thing. I want them all. I want, exclusivity. And so those guys were jerking us all around saying, yeah. You can have like 10 of them. I just thought it was funny. It's like, it's like nobody knows what anybody else knows, right? So we all think that we got some secret locked down, but yet, because the Comet really kind of got started moving on, a couple of little Facebook posts about some guy who found this thing who, he thought it was, and he used my pressure washing test to like put it in a bucket and hold the thing and said, well, shoot, this is pretty viable. But then, then we probably just accidentally started chasing it at the same time, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah. It's a great machine, right? I mean, it works well, and it does what it does for the price point. And one of the issues we had, I don't know if you had this, is they would break. They would break, in the shipping. The hose assembly, the plastic would just crack, and what do you do? I mean, right? I mean, you can't really replace that little piece. I mean, technically you could, but then, we didn't have good luck with that from,
the advantage that I had over you guys is I had a team of like troubleshooters that could work with each customer to figure out, and then we could FaceTime and walk them through. Here, we'll send you a new hose reel out, and then we'll work with them to change the packaging. They still break, so they still haven't figured out the packaging. Now what I'm going to start doing, I have to teach people how to service them, because you can change the oil and stuff like that. I'm going to change seals, but it's still it's not a great pressure washer. It's a good pressure washer. So now that leads me to our next question, which is something you've been working on a lot. I had ARs were always interesting to me, and when I did the pressure washing test and the pressure washing series, when I lots of people had told me about the AR630, So the ARs and the Comet stuff, I'm not going to take credit for any of that. I didn't have anything to do with those. So Krenzel, I'm taking full freaking credit for. But those were just kind of came. Well, but those came as a solution. Comet and AR came as a lower cost solution to sort of combat the Obsessed Garage and Krenzel relationship, right? So other retailers saw that there was a value in creating pressure washing system, and so natural capitalism competition comes in, and so we start developing these other things. And then I've been looking for something in the middle forever. It's got to be something to combat these really crappy ones that $400 or $500, $600. We've all learned that $400 isn't probably going to cut it. That's not enough money to get something decent. Even 500, it's just not. The cost of the pumps, the cost of the electric motors, because we've chased that. I'm working with Active that we may be able to create something in China that is $300-$400 retail that has output, but it won't have the quality, very likely. So you're going to have a $400 high performing machine that gets closer but doesn't have the quality. Even a Comet and a Comet I would classify as lower quality than an AR in most cases. But the to get the quality and to get the flow is costly. And so we know that the Ar630 is a great machine, but you need a stout, clean, dedicated. I mean, that sucker draws 19 amps when you're using the foam cannon. It does 2.3 gallons per minute, and my testing format. So it's a stout machine, but it's rated a 19 amp pump. It's going to take every lick of that 19, which most people don't have. Even if you have a 20 amp circuit, it's not dedicated. And if you live in a home that is older, it's not so easy. Unless you want to run conduit across the wall, you may not even have space. You may have to get a whole new sub panel just to set this up. And so tell us the story of the 675 Pro, which is your baby. This one is something that you chased. Like the 1322 is my baby. Now, you and I, we didn't manufacture this crap, but we begged the companies, which the European companies are hard to deal with, hard to convince to do things. Tell us the story of the 675 and how that went down.
Yeah, so the 675, so ever since, it all started with Comet, right? So the Comet was, like you said, it was that mid-tier solution, but we couldn't get enough. Whatever we got, we couldn't ship properly. And it was just not a good kind of support structure we had to kind of take that anywhere to scale, right? So the other advantage I have is, again, AR Blue North America is Minnesota based. It's 20 minutes from my home. So I literally get into my car and we drive over. And in fact, in one of the visits, even Scott from Dallas Print Correction was visiting, and we both drove over there. But I've been pushing them hard, and this is not overnight. And I said, I want a machine. I literally wrote the specs on a piece of paper. I even drew out the dimensions of what this machine should look like. Comet, for everything that it's worth, I did not like that, that 90-degree water hose at the bottom, which meant it had to be propped up, right? There's a solution for it, but if you had to redesign a machine, that's not where I would put the.
You got to take the darn cover off to put a goofy elbow on, and you can't find an elbow that's the right kind of thread pitch. And it's a lot of work, to get. Like I tell everybody, I'll get you 90% of the way there, but you got to get the rest of the way. And Comet has some normal, typical Italian jank. It's a little bit a little bit of jank to it. But you're getting a lot for not a lot of money. Now they've continued to rise in price, but anyway, keep going.
Yeah. So if you think about it, you have a clean slate of paper, right? You can design something from ground up. You can write the specs. It has to work on a 15 amp circuit. That was one of the criteria, right? And when I say 15 amp, at peak, it should not cross 13.5.
Right, 85%,
because sometimes,
right.
Yeah. Because what's going to happen is, even if you put that foam cannon on, you're going to get that little spike. If it goes to 14.5, you're gonna trip the breaker, right? Mm-hmm. That's just how it is. And I have a new home, and I've tested it, and I've tested it in AR North America. They're probably pissed off at me for taking all these machines from them and testing it like real world testing, right? So I had a chance to work with them, and come up with something. And again, keep in mind the parent company of AR Blue North America, which is based in Italy, they are one of the largest, if not the largest, pump manufacturers. They really know how to make these things, right? And so it's not a function of they can't make it. It's a function of why would they make it? Why should they listen to you, right? So that's where I got working with them. And fortunately, the folks who are on this side, who are here in Minnesota, who run the show, I got to work with them. And over time, we were able to, a machine was prepared. I got it. I tested it. No, it's still, it doesn't do this. It doesn't do that. The flow is not there. The GPM's not there. It trips the breaker. The moment we changed anything to increase the GPM or the PSI, it would require a different kind of fitment that would spike the output of power that it needed, right? So again, a delicate balance of all these three things. And again, I have to be honest, I always had that Comet up on my wall in my garage as the benchmark, right? I don't do a scientific testing the way you do, but I can physically tell what's the difference when I'm running two machines side by side. So I always had the Comet as kind of like the benchmark, but I knew that if I'm making something from scratch, it's got to be better than the Comet, right? The motor, the pump has to be better. It has to be quieter. It has to be more portable. The water inlet has to be in a convenient spot, right? Again, the high quality brass fitments, internals, all of that is given already at this point. So again, I got a call earlier this year. And again, during the pandemic, it all got delayed, all of the sourcing and manufacturing, all of these. But then it did come, and they were telling me there's a machine, it's coming. And then finally it showed up, right? And I got one. I used it immediately. Literally, I drove home, ripped open the box, and I used it. It did not trip the breaker. So that was good. It was good to touch, feel, look at. I checked out. I immediately washed as many cars as I could find. I even told my neighbors, bring your cars over, free car wash day. And, I was so excited. I just kept using it again and again and again. And then I said, you know what? I got to take a break. Got to come back at it tomorrow. Meanwhile, I go back to AR Blue, their physical headquarters, and they show me a log of this 675 that's attached to power and it's running. And they show me a log. It's been running continuously for 26 hours, right? So I'm like, okay. So it's got the stuff. When you say heavy duty industrial, it's just not some branding stuff on top of it, right? So I've been trying to break it ever since, and it hasn't really broken. So again, now I'm at a point where I have been in this point before in my life where I have a product and I don't have the marketing. I'm so excited that I have the product. I don't have the marketing, right? I don't have the reach. And I don't even have Scott, right, this time around. So, and again, since you're the authority on pressure washers, I thought I'll take a chance on you again. And I kind of reached out to you and I said, please test this machine. I'm excited, but I'm not going to say anything. You do the thing, and then we'll decide what we have to do with it. So there is an opportunity with this machine. I've, again, like Marolex, I have yet to have someone come and tell me it's not good or it doesn't work. Right. So we have sold a few from our website. It's still available there on our website. But not many people have seen it, used it, or have experienced it at this point. So
I tested it at 1.58 gallons per minute at it's like 13 and change PSI. Let me log in here. I'll read the exact specs here. I don't think they can see my screen, so let me enter my password in here. It did. We tested it. I think it was like 65 dB, where, most of them are going to be high 60s. So it's, it's about 50% quieter than most of the machines. I don't think it's a replacement for me for the Comet. That's what I was trying to figure out, because I don't want to end up being a retailer with too much stuff, too many choices. Yeah. And I think that it's what, $700, $699 for the unit. Right now it comes with a crappy gun and wand that nobody really wants. But we're hoping that in the future we can get it without that. Let me go here. AR. So the 675 Pro, it's rated at 2000 PSI, and we measured 1475. Because they're rating it like a professional pressure washer is generally going to rate it at the pump head, right? We're
Correct.
rating it on the output. So at 1475, the rated flow was 1.70. We measured 1.42 with the factory gun, and the rated amperage is 13, and we measured 13.6. And then when I modified it and did, put my nozzle on, I put a 3.5 nozzle on a 3.5 size nozzle. Then I decreased pressure by about 400 psi down to 1,050, which is that's what I like. And it did 1.59 gallons per minute. So we gained some horsepower. We gained some flow by changing the nozzle, and we reduced the usable amperage down to 11. So we actually reduced it by 2.6 amps. So I think you could use that on an unclean, regular old 15 amp circuit. Assuming you don't have like a TV and a vacuum cleaner running at the same time, you're going to be able to run that machine no problem. With the foam cannon, I actually tested it with a 1.1 millimeter orifice, and we got 13.2 amps is what it drew, at max. Yeah. So now keep in mind, this is what intrigues me. That's $700, $699 for that. Now the Comet has better specs, but the Comet is of the quality difference is huge. Considerable. Like I said, the Comet overcomes a lot of its jankiness because of all the cool that comes with the hose, a decent hose, a hose reel. So because the Comet measures, it does 1.9 gallons per minute. That's at 13.9 amps. With the foam cannon, you got to use a 1.25 millimeter orifice. It does 13.7. So it's not going to run as cleanly on a you really need a dedicated circuit, or else you're probably going to trip the breaker. How much is the darn Comet now?
I believe it's $799 if I'm not mistaken.
I don't even know what we sell it for. Let me see. Comet's $621 bucks is the 1,700 extra. So but we're comparing, so the Comet has more output, but I'm telling you, you can just look at the pump head. There's a quality difference. This is what intrigues me about the 675. Now, I have no financial interest in this, so Sumeet's trying to talk me into this. I'm trying to talk myself out of it because it's not my idea. We all know I don't like ideas that aren't my ideas, but I'm willing to listen. So, in comparison, we would compare it to the 1622, right? The 1622 is it draws 14.9 amps. Just on the factory gun. We're going to use the same size nozzle. The 1622 does 1.61 GPM at 1,000 psi. So 2/100ths more flow, 50 psi less in my rated with a 3.5 nozzle, and it draws 11.1 amps. So direct, dead on competitor 1622 TS versus the 675. But the 1622 is now like $1,200 or something like that. In this case, 1622 TS, $1,145. So you're talking what was that? $445 difference between a 1622 and your 675. So I think it slots in there really nicely. I didn't want to add another pressure washer. I certainly didn't want to buy it from someone who came up with the idea, and I didn't. If you believe that of me, which most people do, then that it's legit if I'm admitting all these things, and we're going to try to buy it. So I don't think it replaces the Comet. I think it's different than the Comet. I think it has a much different application than the Comet, and it depends on what you value more. Do you want just maximum output, maximum all features? You'd buy the Comet. If you don't mind dealing with some of the weird things like putting a 90-degree elbow on it, or messing around, or dealing with the potential for it being broken and shipping and having to get 2 or 3 different tries of units. But the 675 is very clearly a much better quality pump. Now, tell me this, Sumeet. Is it? I'm assuming it's a crankshaft-driven pump. Is it a triplex or triplex pump like the 630?
It is a triplex pump. Good.
Yeah. So versus, just for those of you, if you're made it this far into a boring podcast type conversation, most of the pumps that you see, most of the especially the consumer pumps, those are all radial axial. So there's a wobble plate that turns, and as it turns, it pushes the plungers in and out. On a triplex pump, think of it's like a crankshaft. There's a crankshaft that runs down the middle. The crankshaft spins and makes the plungers go up and down. That's why you see the heads always look they look like they're on the side of the pump or pushed out front of the electric motor. Whereas a radial axial, the pump is actually just bolted right to the horizontally. So the let's just say it's in parallel with the motor, whereas a triplex pump is turned on its side on the axis because you have a crankshaft running down the middle. Many would argue that a triplex pump is more durable than the finicky radial axial. Radial axial has benefits. There's pros and cons to both. I always call it the triplex pump is like the Camaro. It has more horsepower, more output, more reliability. It's like an LS4. It's a Corvette engine, tried and true, older school, proven. The radial axial is like the Porsche engine, can be more finicky, really needs a lot of solid engineering to work as designed. So it's you as the consumer, you really shouldn't care much. It's just, what is the output? And so it sneaks right in there. And I think this is going to become the mobile detailer's machine for sure.
That's exactly what I was going to say. And this is one of those machines, if you look at it, if you have access to it, I think it's going to age well, right? Think about, 3, 4, 5 years, very little maintenance, if any, right? You can unplug all of it, pick it up. It's exactly 50 pounds, right? The base unit, it's exactly 50 pounds. You can pick it up. The format is very small, and you can put it on anything. You don't have to prop it up to connect the inlet hose from underneath. And it's just going to work. I mean, that's the whole motivation for this kind of a build, if you will. It's just something that will work for a lot of situations. So we've sold 3, 4 units, I think. So one of the things I learned is if you're cleaning industrial kitchens of restaurants, you can't take a gas-powered tool in there because of the carbon monoxide.
That's where all these pumps come from. That's their origins of, meat packing plants and kitchens and hatcheries and things like that. Agricultural, or where these things. That's the nexus. That's where they've come from.
Correct. So this guy who does professional cleaning for kitchens, industrial kitchens, I speak to him and I said, I'm very intrigued in how is this machine working out? And he tells me again and again, he says, I use it 5 days a week. I use it for 4 or 5 hours every day, and we're still good. He says it just works.
Yeah, that's what they're made for, And then as long as you do the maintenance, you do change the seals and do an oil change probably if you're washing your car 3 or 4 years, down the road. My original Krenzel that I did in the same ilk is I didn't change the oil for I think it was 8 years using it. And I used to wash cars a lot more than I even wash them now because I didn't have to worry about cameras and all that crap. So most of these professional pumps, and that's what's cool about it. I don't think I could say the same about the Comet.
Yeah.
I just don't feel as confident about it. It probably will be fine. But you can just see it. If you take the plastic shroud off, there's a difference in industrial quality of the Comet pump versus the ARs and certainly the Krenzel as well. So we're bringing the 675 to the Test Garage store. We'll have packages. We'll have it as part of our system. It's great for shelf mounting as well. So if you want to do like sort of a custom install solution, it works well there. Hopefully we'll get in a little smaller box in the future, get rid of the gun and wand and hose that comes with it, because we won't need any of that junk, because most of us are going to modify, especially if you're in that price range. But the nice thing about this, for those of us that want to go there, to get a Krenzel outfitted with a hose, with a good gun, with a good wand, all of that stuff, I mean, you're now $1,500, $1,600, $1,800, where this, that $440, you can get into a really high-end modified setup versus a 1622 with the AR and get there, so you can get, the same result with similar quality, without putting an extra, with $400, $500, $600 less, which is really intriguing to me. And so I'm swallowing my pride and giving Sumeet the credit, and we're going to put it in the store, and begrudgingly. And the other thing that has me motivated is that it's like the only pressure washer available right now. Like, it's the only one you can get. None of them are. I think all the 1622s, all the 1122s, all the 1322s, all of them coming in are sold already. The ones that do show up. So people are going to be months and months and months of waiting. So if you want one of the 675s, you can get it from Luxury Microfiber. Or if you're watching this video, screw him, buy it from me. Price is the same. I got to get my cut here. So, but I won't know. If you want to skate the system and don't want to give me credit, you can just go buy it right from luxurymicrofiber.com. And someday, if you see a price spike, I better get a cut of that. So,
no, I mean, at the end of the day, again, I'm here sitting talking to you, Matt, because I'm not motivated by one or two things. As you can tell, I get so involved in building those relationships that make a product a certain way. And then I always am reminded, shoot, I don't have an audience. Right. So I do realize my
I don't know if you want
one. I do know my weaknesses and my opportunities too. So again, I'll continue to do what I do, but at the same time, I mean, if this is something that's exclusive, Obsessed Garage, I am more than happy to take a back seat on that as well. But at the same time, right, I mean, my motivation is, as you can tell, if you thread all of my pieces of my conversation, I have lived in 3 different continents in my life. I've interacted with a lot of different people. I know how people view Americans in general. And we are not very good sometimes in putting ourselves in their shoes and thinking about how they think about us, right? So that's where it comes in my expertise of trying to work with these people, tell them that, listen, US is the biggest market, but it's not going to happen tomorrow. There's a relationship we're going to build. We're going to build some trust. It's going to take a long time, but we'll get there, right? So I think I come across pretty genuine when I have these conversations. These things have worked out well for me. Again, I'm not here to, make a quick buck and then wrap up my shop here. I'm very motivated to do the right thing. And over time, you build relationships, and, some go take you places and some don't. So that's where this comes down to. Again, the AR Blue people here in North America, in Minnesota, they are willing to work with me, right? They were willing to take what I was giving them, what I call feedback, right? But also trying to help build a new machine that kind of works. And I knew they could do it because they had the know-how, they had the technology. It was just not top priority.
So what happened? I've seen this thing it's on your site and it's on a couple other sites. I thought you had exclusivity on this thing. What happened there?
Yeah, I think the exclusivity part is, it's, how do I say this without, so again, it comes down to, if I have the market to sell all of these, then I would go ahead and buy all of these and sell all of these. Obviously, it's a huge commitment. We're a very, very small company. We can't buy all of it and store it. If I technically am allowed to do it, and then, it will be available only through us. But because I'm not being able to live up to my part of the bargain, which is buy all of it that was made in the first run, I think AR North America, they have to do what they have to do, which is offer it to other people as well. So
I've talked about this a lot, especially on my Inside the Hex, membership platform. I don't generally want exclusivity on anything. But sometimes I'm going to have to take it, like on, say, the OG Spec Mosmatic gun that I developed, and with Mosmatic. I think that sometimes it's necessary to have exclusivity, but I think that hurts products long term. And so I just, what I'm doing in the future is, if I'm going to partner with somebody or partner with a manufacturer, is to negotiate either the ability to wholesale it for them. So I'll take all of the product comes and wholesale, like what I'm doing with Pressall. I have no intention of hoarding Pressall and keeping it just for me. In fact, I just built another company that we are building another company so that Pressall I could take and then sell to whomever wants it, because I think it hurts the product, it hurts the ability for it to go viral, hurts how much money I could make in the long term, and it just means that companies are going to try to go around me and because most of the companies are copying it anyway. Very, very few of these, companies, retailers have a lot of original thoughts. They're looking for ideas that are clearly working, that they could then go and take a portion of that market share and then possibly grow it from there. And so I'm happy to help feed those retailers in the future. It just sucks in the beginning when I make a market for something out of just pure passion and then put in all the effort. And then I hate it when the manufacturer then goes and uses me to then sell to the people who are taking a piece of the pie. So I'm looking for companies to help make the pie bigger, not just take from the pie that exists. And so exclusivity is not the goal. The goal is to get compensated for the effort, and so hopefully, unlike the 675, that we can maintain some exclusivity on that, and then take all of them that come and then sell them at the same margin that the retailer is going to get anyway. Because if you're taking all of them, let's say the margin's 50%, just a round number. If I take all of the Pressall bottles that come in the U.S. And then I sell to the retailer and they have a 40% margin, they would have gotten a 25% margin had they tried to go at it themselves. And so cutting me in, one, gets better marketing for the product because my brand, Obsessed Garage, is marketing it, leading the way in the marketing. And then, I can cut in and capture, like I wish I could have done that with Krenza. So I could have captured what it is I was responsible, what market was being made. And so I'm going to try to do that in the future. And so exclusivity is not the goal with anything. It's the ability to control one's destiny and then get compensated for the effort put into the equation to make it so that the other retailers have something they can copy that then they can go ahead and make a few bucks off of. I just want to get my cut, if you will.
And that's fair, right? I mean, that's capitalism, right? I mean, at the end of the day, my motivations are also similar, right? I mean, I manage the Marolex because they've bestowed that responsibility on me to manage Marolex. But the flip side of this is there are people who buy Marolex from Amazon that ships from I don't know where. Nobody knows. Even Marolex doesn't know where it ships from. And they'll tell me, hey, the seal is broken. Can I get a replacement? I'm like, you never bought it from any of our channels. So it does create other... but at the end of the day, exclusivity works if you're trying to weed out kind of like bad actors, right? Yeah. But there's always going to be people who are going to kind of figure, they're going to come in, they're going to back themselves into these situations and then trying to get into opportunities but at the end of the day, I think if you're motivated to do the right thing, provide a quality product, stand behind it. And Matt, in your case, the education, the videos, the investment of the time, the testing, to me, that's immensely valuable. I have bought so many products just watching your videos over the year. It started off with the Ely hose reel, right? I mean, you had it in your first home, I believe. And I said, I'm going to buy that. And my wife said, you get those at Home Depot for $40. I'm like, no, I want to buy that one for $250 because Matt said it's good, right? So that's the value. And I'm not suggesting that's for everybody, right? Hence, you have these solutions at different kind of categories, right? The price categories. But at the end of the day, whichever category you play in, it has to be the best value for money in that category, right?
Yeah. And that was the big epiphany for me and why the business really took off. Just before I'd left, my career, luckily, I got lucky in that I said, the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of the questions we have is, how do I hook up my pressure washer? What connections do I need? And so why don't I just buy every pressure washer and then we'll have the data, and then we'll be able to teach people, and then we can build a site to where people don't even have to ask us. They can just go there and they can say, well, if I have a Ryobi, this model number, this is the package that I need. Luckily I did that because it's made millions, tens of millions. If not, I would have been freaking screwed. I would have sold my house. I'd have a job somewhere just making videos on the side. So it was that epiphany that Well, one, I really like the younger Maddie. I like the younger version of myself, and other people like me. I really like them. I enjoy them. I enjoy, enjoy their questions. I enjoy, interacting with them. So why am I alienating and weeding them out and hoping that someday they become successful enough to buy, a $2,000 pressure washer? Why don't I figure out a way, if there's something that would have been acceptable to me, younger me back then, why don't I figure out some way to provide them a solution as well? And then if I deliver for them, then I have a built-in future customer for the mid-grade, and then they get themselves up to the high grade someday. And then who knows, maybe someday they do really well and we design and build their garage for them. And so that was the big seminal sort of moment for me. I think the next seminal moment for me personally is figuring out how to capture customers, get them in line for the products that aren't coming and not coming in reasonable time. Because if I don't, we're going to all go out of business. So that's the next step, is that, you want an AR, like for instance, we have 198 of these ARs. And once they're gone, we got, 500, next shipment of 500, but that's not going to be until, early first quarter next year. And so how are we going to make sure that you get one? Because those 500 might be sold before you even, because if you wait to say, well, I'll wait till it says in stock. And so I'm going to hopefully teach people how to do that. The other thing that's going to be really frustrating for a lot of spouses is that the holiday, during Christmas, you aren't going to have anything to give anybody. I think that's what this year is going to be like. And I think next year as well. And so I'm going to try to figure out how to provide them with a placard or something that we can send to them. And I'm going to email them once a week and say, hey, here's where everything's at. And I'm going to basically create a membership platform that you're a member of if you have something on back order that you're waiting on. And we're going to update everybody on where their stuff is, and get their place locked in line. Like, for instance, I bought some tires for the Raptor, and I want to make sure I get them as soon as they come. They keep trying to cancel it on me. I'm like, no. Keep my order in. I want to be the number 2 or whatever I am, number 1, waiting for them. I bet you the CEO of Four Wheel Parts doesn't want them calling and canceling orders, but the employees want to get it off their docket because they don't want to be bothered with it. But the employees aren't going to have a job if they don't start taking orders from people and start holding on and then updating you. Hey, here's where your tires are. Here's where your tires are. We think it's on a boat. We think it's sitting here. As long as I know that it's coming at some point, because there's no other tires I can buy. That's it. And even if there are, so actually, let me rephrase that. There was a set of tires I could buy, but I don't like them. They're junk. So I bought those tires just to hold me over. But I still want the real tires, the tires that I want, the Toyo all countries or open countries to come when they come. And I'll replace the cheap ones that held the place. So if we can all figure out as retailers, we can figure out how to capture the cheap sale of what we have in stock and also capture the better sale. And what would be even better if I would then be able to have a buyback program for the cheap thing and then sell that again. That would be the perfect world. But I'm pushing my luck here with all my people here. I'm going to have them drive off a bridge.
So here's the thing, right? And this is just a short story I'll share. So manufacturing has shifted and changed globally for good, right? And we've felt some tremors, but we haven't felt the full kind of degree of how it's shifting and changing, right? So to your point of availability, we already know, you and I, Matt, what things are going to be available this year or what things will not be. The lead times have gone off the charts, and some things are never going to get replenished. We just know it. So last year during the pandemic, this is where business relationships comes into play, right? So last year during the pandemic, there was a blender here in the US who couldn't ship any chemicals out because those 16-ounce bottles and the sprayers that go with it were gone, not available, not one single. You can call anybody, pay whatever you want, not available. So someone called me and they said, hey, Sumeet, you keep talking about this, the fact that you have relationships overseas. This is what I want. I want 40,000 16-ounce bottles and I want 40,000 sprayers. I made a couple of calls, Matt. This is a true story. I made a couple of calls. I called all the factories that I knew. I basically found 2-3 top big manufacturers. I spoke to the owner of those factories through the relationships I have. And within 6 weeks, I had here in the US 40,000 16-ounce bottles and 40,000 sprayers. Right? They prioritized me and what I was asking for as they want to do me a favor because I'm asking for it. Right? And I gave it to this gentleman who could then ship out these 16-ounce chemicals that we all know, these bottles. So relationships go both ways, right? There are times when you have to be able to pick up the phone, call somebody through the connections. And then I didn't know these people. I just got connected to them and someone made the call and said, hey, Sumeet is my guy. Please, whatever he has to say, please listen to him. Right? So those things over time play out and they matter. Right?
Yeah, that's how I've gotten everything done. It's how you get everything done in your life. And that's where, doing as good of a job as possible. It's funny because there's lots of other new vendors that I want to be that guy for that are just saying nope, because they don't. First of all, no one believes it until you deliver on it generally, or if somebody vouches for you. And so the way I got in with NAD was Dyne Audio vouched for me because they saw the first videos and how many Dyne Audio musics we sold. Or, MTM, sometimes it can be competitive in that Mosmatic said yes because MTM said yes, and they don't like each other. So sometimes those relationships, negative relationships can work out. Right. And so that's what's I think that the world is going to be based on for quite some time is who has done the work. The other thing that's, I think, going to help, and this is all a gamble from my perspective or on my part, and a gamble from the customer's perspective, is that if we have a unit sold versus a unit potentially sold, I think that it's going to be, I think that vendors or manufacturers are going to be likely to place the product sold versus potentially sold. Because then they're dealing with terms and credit terms, and are you going to take it all? Are you going to ship it? Where I'm saying, I've got 1,000 units already sold. I need 2,000. And they say, well, we only have 500. Well, let's give you all 500 because that's all we got because you already have them sold, and these other guys just promising me that they're going to sell it. So I think that I'm going to mobilize the Obsessed Garage customer. The grouping of people. The other thing that's going to be really advantageous for the customer, really disadvantage to me, is that we're going to lock in their price today. And what would you wager? What are the percentage of products that are going to see a massive price increase over the next 6 to 18 months? Darn near 100%, I would think.
Yeah. I was just going to say the next year, the 500 units, you're not getting them at the same price as whatever you get them today.
Yeah.
So it's a given. It's now what we don't know is whether we're talking about 5%, 8%, 12%, 18%. We don't know that.
Yeah. I hope it's not 25 because there goes all the margin, so.
The other thing that I deal with is the cost of the container and the shipping, right? I deal with that every month, and they have, to put it modestly, doubled, in some cases tripled. So just think about freight. If the freight has tripled,
remember Ford, remember in 2007 when oil went to 148 bucks a barrel. I remember UPS and FedEx and USPS and then all these companies putting on a fuel surcharge. Then eventually they rolled that fuel surcharge into the cost. And then fuel went down to $1.50 again, or went down to, it was like $22 a barrel or something like that. And we never saw a price decrease, did we? Never happened.
No.
So I am fairly, if I were a gambling man, I would say that, containers have quadrupled. I don't think they're going to go back to pre-pandemic pricing ever again. Because why would they? They've proven that they can do it. But I also think that this is probably going to, if this is sustained, going to lead to a boom in U.S. manufacturing again.
Yes.
I know that, now, I would rather have a European and U.S. manufacturing. That now, a Chinese made Sabre cabinet costs about as much as a cabinet made in the Netherlands by, Sonic. It's almost dollar for dollar now. The Sonic is a far superior cabinet, But because Europe hasn't seen the massive increases in tariffs and in container costs that China has. From what I understand, the biggest issue with the container cost difference is they're like making the containers to ship it in, because most of the containers sitting over here. It's harder for them to get the containers back over there because no one wants to take an empty container.
Yeah. So the last probably 4 or 5 containers that we've gotten either from New York or from LA, the container does not physically come to me anymore. So earlier they would put it on a train and it would come to Chicago. It would go on another train, come to Minnesota. Now they unload the container and bring, like in a truck, they bring my cartons to me. So the container has to turn around at the port and go back. But the issue with that is my last container, my packing slip said 350 cartons. I got 313. Now, who knows whether many, we don't know, right? Yeah. It's just lost.
Yeah. So these are the things that are going to happen. I believe that we're in the midst of a business supply chain related recession. I don't think I would, if I were to guess, I would guess the consumer, other than not being able to get products, I don't think that they're going to be as affected. What are going to be affected are, businesses that, which is almost all, businesses outside of businesses provide just a service, so a lot of tech, a lot of things like hospitality, even hospitality needs supply. But unless you're creating something virtual or providing a service like insurance or selling stocks, you're likely to see a major recessionary environment. This supply chain thing is really a disaster, and so I think I've got a solution figured out how to keep us and how to have us survive. Because that's my biggest risk now. Is now I got all this overhead, I've got all these humans, I've got all this payroll, and which I didn't have before, and I've got a willing customer, but no willing manufacturer, no product. And so I've got to figure out a way to bridge that gap while still providing a valuable service that I think people are going to want, that they don't even know they want. Everybody wants everything right now. They want to talk to me on the phone right now. They want it to ship right now. They want to open it when it gets home right now. But they're not going to be able to get any of those 3 things. So what can I offer you that will, as a consolation, what can I offer you that's as close as possible to right now? And that means it's 4 months from now. Because if I don't offer that to you, it's going to be 14 months from now. And I'm going to leverage relationships. I'm going to leverage buying power. I'm going to leverage the fact that I already have a willing customer with money already paid to get me the product right now. And that means that I'll get it 3 months or 4 months or 2.5 months instead of 12 months or 18 months from now. And that's what the message I'm going to be pitching to the world. And it's self-serving because it's the only way I'm going to survive. But it's also, there's an equal exchange there because I'm providing people a service that others aren't doing yet. So our store is not going to say out of stock. Our store is going to say, get in line. Get in line, get in line, get in line. I need to stop.
I think that's going to be a big deal, Matt. I think you have your pulse on something because, to your point, the manufacturers of, I'll even go out on a limb and say quality products, right? The manufacturer of a quality product is going to prioritize where they're able to send their products, and they would rather pick someone like you who has the customers already to show them, right? I mean, it's just a function of, otherwise it's just a function of those things, those payment terms and typical turnaround times that you have to kind of deal with. And that's what I meant when I said earlier on, I think the dynamics of business and manufacturing is changing. And we're just seeing we're early innings into this right now.
Yeah, the tricky part is going to be I'm going to feel super rich because I'm not buying the inventory and I got to sitting on all the cash. You can't go buy all kinds of stupid stuff with other people's money and build a Ponzi scheme out of it. The trick is to have it budgeted to the T so you know what's coming, because the margins are going to get squeezed as well for a while on that, because a lot of products that people are locking in are going to sell for a lot more. Well, I'm going to have to buy for a lot more than what I would buy today. So I'm also hoping that if I can negotiate and predict a little bit ahead in the future and lock in my pricing with vendors, so that even though so we're both locked in, and so then the customer gets a fair price on the product, they lock it in, and then I don't get hosed on the back end by prices rising and eating up all the profitability. It's going to be an interesting time we're in, and I think the gamble for most business owners is going to be figuring out how to overcome it and how to capitalize on it. And we'll see if I'm right. We'll see if customers are willing to do that. I know I want to do that because I don't want to wait forever. For instance, we're probably going to sell our house and build another one. I want to lock in, let's get our materials now. Let's get our refrigerators and microwaves ordered now, even though we need them 15 months from now. It's going to take 12 to get it. So let's lock it in. If we wait 12 months and then we do the normal 3-month lead time, we're not going to get it, because it's going to be 2 years before you can get the product that you want. And this could last a really long time, which I'm nervous about.
The same is true for cars, right? I mean, we've seen the same stuff play out again and again in the automotive industry too. I mean, you can get in line for a Porsche right now. You're not getting one.
Mm-mm.
I mean, you know that.
Yep.
So I have actually buddies who work in the dealership who allocate Porsches, and he's like, dude, I can't give you anything.
Yeah. Yeah, they gotta appease their customers that buy every car that they have come out. They've got their list of people that, they're the ones that get every single car. They'll buy, 4 Panamera, executive GTS, $200,000 waste of money cars in order to maintain that spot. Or imagine the luck of you bought a 918 and you just bought it because you had to, and they were giving them away, and then you became VIP allocated forever. So that it's the same thing with Ferrari. If you bought every Ferrari, those guys have owned every Ferrari for free and made several $1 million, off of the buying, enjoying, driving, playing with the car, and then trading it in for a massive premium. So they're net positive in their Ferrari ownership. Same thing with the 918 buyer. They've gotten every GT car. And if they were smart, they would have taken them all, and then they sold them all at premiums when the supply demand, curve changed. But hopefully that happens with products. Man, could you imagine if you could have predicted this? You would have bought all kinds of stuff. Just leverage yourself to the tilt. Bought every pressure washer, every product that you knew something about, loaded up some 200,000 square foot warehouse, and now you'd just be rolling in the dough because you'd mark everything up. You're the only one who has it, and man, if I would have bought 5 million feet of pressure washer hose, I would have been be retired by the end of this year. It'd been amazing. If only that was the case. If only you knew to buy Apple stock in 1984, then, or Bitcoin 5 years ago, it would all worked out for you. Anyway, thanks, Sumeet. Anything else you can think of that we didn't cross over? I think we did a good job telling your story. And I have a feeling this will be a long-term relationship for us. We're not partners. We're just like-minded people. He has products. I have products. We work together on certain things, and I think that's a valuable resource. It's all about relationships in this world. And I think that one of the great parts about having a real relationship is that we can have an honest conversation, which I think we had today. An honest conversation about everything. I punted the towels in the trash, kind of thing. I didn't want Marolex, those kind of things are. And you are very honest about, I like this, these kind of things are of value to the world, and hopefully we can keep making stuff, chasing our passion. So, anyway, thanks everybody for watching. Sumeet.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, Matt. I really appreciate it. And again, we'll continue on. And if anyone has any questions, they want to know more, they can, reach out to me, and we can do another one of these.
Yeah, hit up luxurymicrofiber.com, and you can, Sumeet's contact will be in there. Just fill out the contact form, send him an email, and you get anything you need. So anyway, thanks everybody for watching. See you soon.